After we met, this is our first Christmas. Her didn't know about Christmas before it all began on a chilly autumn afternoon. It's the kind when the sun is bright but the air feels sharp against your skin. He was walking home from work, carrying a small bag of groceries, his mind filled with nothing more than the usual thoughts of bills, chores, and the quiet rhythm of everyday life. He liked his life, this way, simple, predictable, and steady. That was until he saw her. She was sitting alone on a small park bench, her shoulders slightly hunched, her eyes fixed on the ground as if she were trying to make herself invisible. There was something different about her, something that caught his attention immediately. She seemed out of place, yet somehow completely real, as if she didn't belong anywhere yet belonged everywhere she looked. She had a softness to her, a quietness that made people want to notice her without frightening her away. Curiosity made him slow down. Something about the way she held herself made him think she had stories she hadn't shared yet. He didn't know why, but he felt compelled to speak to her. He walked past the bench once, then turned back, pretending to tie his shoe. "Hi," he said, smiling awkwardly. She looked up, startled, her eyes wide with surprise. It wasn't the smile of someone who was used to strangers approaching her. She hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Hi," she whispered, her voice soft and careful, as if speaking louder might break something fragile. He noticed immediately that she spoke in a slightly different way, with a rhythm and tone that made him think she had not spent much time around people. She seemed both curious and cautious at the same time. "Are you okay?" he asked gently, not wanting to startle her further. "I'm fine," she said, though her voice didn't convince him. He could see the tension in her hands, the way her fingers fidgeted with the strap of her bag. There was something in her eyes that told him. She wasn't just physically present in the park, she was carrying invisible weight, stories of a past no one could see. He decided to sit a little distance away, keeping it casual. He didn't want to rush her, didn't want to scare her off with too much attention. "It's nice here, isn't it?" he said, pointing to the golden leaves that fell gently around them, dancing in the wind. She nodded again. "It is," she replied quietly. Her eyes followed the leaves, and he could see a hint of a smile forming, small but real. He thought it was the first time she had allowed herself to notice something beautiful in a while. He waited a few moments before speaking again. "Do you come here often?" He tried to keep the tone light, casual, but honest. She looked at him, and for a moment he thought she might not answer. Then she shook her head. "No, not really," she said. Her words were simple, but there was a depth to them, a quiet honesty. He could sense that she was new to experiences most people take for granted. New to simple joys like sitting in a park on a sunny day. Something in that moment made him want to know more about her. He had always been curious about people, about the quiet stories that live behind their eyes. But there was something different about her. He couldn't explain it. She seemed untouched by many things he considered ordinary. Things like laughter, friendship, and celebrations. He decided to be honest. "You seem different," he said carefully. "Not in a bad way. I just haven't met anyone like you before." Her eyes widened slightly and she blinked, clearly unsure how to respond. "Different?" she asked softly. "Yes," he said, smiling. "Different in a good way. Like you've seen the world in a way most people haven't. I mean, you notice things I think most people don't." She didn't answer right away. She seemed to be considering his words, as if deciding whether she should trust them. Finally, she nodded slowly. "Maybe," she whispered almost to herself. They sat in silence for a few minutes after that, watching the world move around them. People walked by. Dogs ran with their owners. The wind rustled through the trees, but for a moment, it was just the two of them sitting quietly. Connected without words, he learned a little about her that day. Not everything she was careful, revealing only what she wanted him to know, but enough to understand that she had lived a life very different from his. She didn't talk about family, or holidays, or friends. Her experiences seemed small, private, and lonely, but in a way that made her unique. He didn't judge her. In fact, he felt honored that she allowed him even this small glimpse into her life. Most people guard themselves so tightly that it takes years to see even a fraction of who they truly are. With her, it felt instant, like a door had opened just enough to peek inside, as the sun began to dip lower in the sky. He knew he wanted to see her again. He didn't know why or what it would mean, but there was a pull, connection that felt both strange and familiar. "Would you like to walk with me?" he asked. "Just for a little while?" She hesitated, then nodded. They stood together, a careful but tentative partnership, and walked slowly down the winding paths, crunching leaves under their feet. He didn't try to fill the silence with meaningless chatter. He let her take her time, observing the world as he did, sharing the simple presence of someone else without the need for explanations. It wasn't dramatic or magical in the way books describe first meetings. There were no fireworks, no sudden revelations, just two people noticing each other in a quiet, ordinary park. But there was something special in its simplicity. Something that felt like the start of something important. By the time they parted that evening, he had learned something crucial. This encounter would not be ordinary. She was different, yes, but in a way that mattered. He could feel that their lives were about to change. Slowly but surely, through small moments, gentle conversations, and shared experiences that would mean more than either of them could imagine. As he watched her walk away, disappearing down the street, he felt an unfamiliar sense of anticipation. It wasn't romance yet, not exactly, but it was something equally strong, a feeling that this meeting, this chance encounter, was the beginning of a story neither of them had expected, but both would remember forever. That night, as he sat at home and went about his usual routine, he found his thoughts returning to her. Her cautious smile, the way her eyes followed the falling leaves, the way she spoke softly but deliberately. He realized that meeting her had opened a small window to a world he hadn't known existed, a world of quiet wonder, of innocence untouched by the busy, loud rhythms of life. And somewhere deep inside, he knew that this was only the beginning. Winter was slowly approaching, and with it came a change in the air that made him think of cozy nights. Warm drinks and quiet streets lined with the soft glow of street lamps. He noticed her more often now, not by chance, but because he sought her out. After that first meeting in the park, something about her stayed with him, her quiet curiosity, her careful way of looking at the world, and the softness in her eyes that made him feel protective. One afternoon, he invited her to sit with him in a small cafe near the city center. The smell of fresh bread and coffee wrapped around them as they settled into a corner booth. She seemed nervous at first, glancing around at the other people, the laughter, the couples chatting. It was as if she had never been in a place like this before. "Do you come here often?" he asked gently, trying to break the ice. She shook her head, fidgeting with the edge of her scarf. "No, not really," she said softly. Her voice carried a hint of wonder, like she was discovering the world step by step. He smiled, realizing how small experiences, which most people take for granted, were entirely new to her. He wanted to help her see these things, not by explaining, but by letting her experience them that day. He noticed that the streets were decorated with bright lights. Red and green banners hung from shop windows, and cheerful music drifted through the air. People walked with bags full of presents, children laughed as they ran past, and even strangers seemed lighter in spirit. "Do you know what all this is for?" he asked her quietly, pointing to the lights and decorations. She tilted her head, looking confused. "No, why is everyone so happy?" she asked, her voice small and curious. "It's Christmas," he said. "It's a time of year when people celebrate, not just with gifts, but with kindness. They spend time with family, friends, and people they care about. It's about warmth and hope and sharing." She listened carefully, her eyes wide. "I've never had Christmas," she admitted softly. "I didn't even know it was real." He nodded, understanding immediately. It's real, but it's also something people make real by being together, by giving and caring. It's not just one day. It's the feelings people share. For a long moment, she stared at the decorations, the lights reflecting in her eyes. And he could see that she was imagining something she had never felt before. There was a mix of wonder and uncertainty there, desire to understand a world that had always been out of reach. "Would you like to see more?" he asked, feeling a sudden need to show her everything. She nodded, a small smile forming. "Yes, I think I would." They walked slowly through the streets, and he explained little things as they went. Why people hung lights, why some families put up trees, and why gifts were exchanged. He told her it wasn't about money or objects, but about showing love and thoughtfulness, even in small ways. She listened, sometimes asking questions that seemed obvious to others, but he never minded. Her curiosity was genuine, and he found it refreshing. "Do people always give gifts?" she asked, her voice cautious. "Not always," he said. "Some people give gifts, some spend time with each other, some help others in need. It's different for everyone. The important thing is the intention. It's about caring, really caring, and showing it." She nodded slowly, as if trying to understand a concept she had never encountered. "I want to try this," she said quietly. "I want to feel like that." Her words warmed him more than the cafe ever could. He realized that she didn't just want to see Christmas. She wanted to be part of it, to feel included in something joyful and meaningful. He felt a sudden responsibility, not in a heavy way, but in a way that made him want to share everything with her. Over the next few days, he began showing her small parts of the season. They went to a market where people sold ornaments and handmade gifts. She watched in awe as a child handed a small gift to an elderly woman, and her eyes filled with wonder. He explained that this was part of the spirit of Christmas, simple acts of kindness that made people feel connected. She touched a small ornament, turning it in her hands, and whispered, "It's beautiful." "Why does it make me feel happy?" "Because it's a reminder of thoughtfulness," he said gently. "Even a small thing can carry love, and love makes us happy. That's what Christmas is about." As they walked through the market, she tried to take in everything: the smells of baked goods, the music, the laughter of children, the chatter of families. It was overwhelming, yet she soaked it all in, like someone discovering a secret world. She asked questions constantly, sometimes small, sometimes deep, and he answered each one, never rushing her, letting her learn at her own pace. One evening, they walked past a street where a family had put up a Christmas tree in their window. The lights sparkled like tiny stars, and he could see her reflection in the glass, her eyes wide with wonder. She touched the glass lightly, as if afraid to break the beauty she was seeing. "I never had anything like this," she whispered. "Never a tree, never lights, never a family celebrating together." He looked at her, his heart tightening. He wanted to give her all of it, the joy, the warmth, the feeling of belonging. He realized that for her, Christmas wasn't just a holiday, it was a world she had never stepped into before. And he wanted her first experience to be gentle, real, and unforgettable. The days passed, and he began small traditions with her. They baked cookies together, not perfectly, but with laughter and care. He showed her how to wrap gifts, even if it was just for each other. She learned how to hang a simple string of lights, her movements careful and deliberate, as if every act mattered more because it was new. One night, they sat together by a small artificial tree he had set up in his apartment. It wasn't fancy, just a little tree with simple lights. But to her, it felt magical. She looked at him, eyes shining with a mixture of awe and gratitude. "This is Christmas?" she asked softly. "Yes," he said, smiling. "This is our start. Not the biggest or the brightest, but ours. It's the feeling, not the size." She nodded, reaching out to touch one of the ornaments. Her fingers lingered on the smooth surface, and he could see her imagination at work. She was picturing families, warmth, laughter, all the things she had missed in her own life. That night, she told him stories of her past, little fragments of life she had lived quietly. Without celebrations or traditions, he listened, holding her stories carefully in his heart. And as she listened to him talk about his own family, his own memories of Christmases past, she began to understand the idea more clearly. It wasn't just about decorations or gifts, it was about connection, shared joy and care as the first snow fell. Soft and quiet, blanketing the streets in white, she looked up at the sky in wonder. "I've never seen snow like this before," she said, her voice full of awe. "Then this is your first real winter, too," he said, smiling. "And it's just in time for Christmas." She laughed softly, a sound he realized he would never forget. "It feels like magic," she said. He realized then that teaching her about Christmas wasn't just about the holiday, it was about giving her new experiences, small joys, and the feeling that life could hold warmth and wonder. He watched her discover everything with curiosity and care, and he felt a quiet happiness that was deeper than anything he had known. By the time Christmas was only a few days away, she had learned more than he thought possible in such a short time. She knew what lights meant, what gifts were for, and even tried to sing a carol with him, her voice uncertain but full of joy. She still had much to learn, but the spark of understanding was there, glowing brightly in her eyes, and he realized something important. For her, this first Christmas wasn't just about learning, it was about feeling. Feeling included, feeling warmth, feeling that someone cared enough to show her a world she had never known. And for him, it wasn't just about teaching, it was about seeing someone he cared. It's about discover happiness for the very first time. That first week of December became a memory neither of them would forget. Every light, every laugh, every question she asked made him see Christmas in a new way. Not as a holiday, but as a chance to give someone something they had never had before. And in the process, he learned that sharing joy can be as simple as holding someone's hand and letting them explore the world with curiosity and wonder. She was learning Christmas, but unknowingly, he was learning it too. And together, step by step, they were creating a story that was quiet, ordinary, yet beautiful in ways neither of them could have imagined. The days passed quickly, and Christmas was almost here. He wanted this first Christmas for her to be special, something she would never forget. He thought about it carefully, knowing that she had never experienced any of the traditions most people take for granted. For him, it wasn't about buying expensive gifts or creating something perfect. It was about giving her feelings she had never felt before. Joy, warmth, and the quiet comfort of belonging. One morning, he went to a small market, looking for the simplest things that could make a Christmas magical. He found a tiny tree, not tall, but full of little branches where lights could shine. He picked up some colorful ornaments, each one small and simple, but with a charm that he thought she would notice. He also bought a string of lights, warm and soft, that would twinkle gently in their little space. He spent the morning preparing, cleaning his small apartment, arranging things so they felt cozy and inviting. He didn't want it to be perfect. He wanted it to feel real, warm, and personal. He thought about how she might react when she saw the decorations for the first time, and a smile formed on his face. The excitement of giving someone new experiences, the thrill of watching her discover a world she had never known, filled him with a quiet happiness. When she arrived that afternoon, he could see her curiosity immediately. She looked around, her eyes wide, taking in the soft glow of the lights, the small tree, and the ornaments he had carefully placed. "Wow," she whispered, stepping slowly into the room, as if afraid to disturb the scene. He smiled, a little nervous himself. "It's not much, but it's ours," he said gently. "I wanted you to see Christmas the way I see it, in small, simple things." She walked closer to the tree, her fingers hovering over the branches. "It's beautiful," she said softly, almost in awe. "I've never seen anything like this." He watched her as she touched an ornament carefully, turning it in her hands. Her expression was one of wonder, her eyes shining as if the lights reflected not just on the tree, but in her heart as well. "This is magic," she said, almost to herself. He laughed quietly. "It is magic," he said. "But it's also real. It's made by people who care, who want to make each other happy." Together, they decorated the tree. She held ornaments while he helped her place them carefully. She helped him untangle the lights, her small hands clumsy but determined. They laughed often, sometimes softly, sometimes with surprise when a string of lights didn't work at first. It was a simple, ordinary activity, yet to her, it felt extraordinary. She had never done anything like this before. After the tree was done, they moved to preparing something small for Christmas dinner. He didn't have much, but he wanted the meal to feel special. They baked cookies together, the kitchen filled with the sweet smell of sugar and butter. She laughed as flour dusted her hair, and he found himself smiling more than he had in months. The simple joy of watching her experience something new filled him with a sense of peace he hadn't realized he needed. As the afternoon turned into evening, he handed her a small gift. "This is for you," he said softly. She looked at it, confused and unsure. "I don't have anything for you," she said, her voice small. "That's okay," he said gently. "This is just for you. It's not about giving something back. It's about showing you that you matter." She unwrapped it slowly, revealing a small, handmade ornament. It was simpler, tiny wooden star, painted in soft colors. But to her, it felt like the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. Her eyes filled with tears, and she smiled. A little shy, a little overwhelmed. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything," he said. "I just want you to have it. Something to remember your first Christmas by." She held it carefully, turning it in her hands, and then placed it gently on the tree. "It belongs here," she said softly, stepping back to look at it after dinner. They sat by the tree, sharing simple stories and memories. He told her about the Christmases he had as a child, the laughter, the small gifts, the family traditions. She listened quietly, sometimes asking questions, sometimes just watching the lights flicker and glow. She began to understand not just what Christmas was, but why it mattered, why people felt warmth and love during this season. Later, they exchanged small gifts. He had made her something simpler scarf he had knitted himself. She touched it, feeling the soft yarn, and her eyes lit up with gratitude. "You made this?" she asked, surprised and touched. "Yes," he said, smiling. "It's not perfect, but it's made with care. That's what matters." She wrapped it around her neck, feeling the warmth of it, and smiled. "I've never had someone make something for me before," she said softly. "It feels special." He realized then that this first Christmas was not just about the decorations, the tree, or the food. It was about connection. It was about showing her that she belonged somewhere, that she mattered, that someone cared enough to make her feel included. Every small act, the lights, the cookies, the gifts, the laughter was a message of kindness and warmth. As the night went on, they sat quietly by the tree, watching the flickering lights. She leaned back, her head resting on his shoulder for the first time. He felt the weight of her trust, the small but significant gesture of closeness. It was a moment of quiet intimacy. It's a moment that didn't need words to be meaningful. "I didn't know Christmas could feel like this," she said softly. "I thought it was just decorations and gifts. But it's more. It's warmth. It's being with someone who cares." He nodded, feeling a lump in his throat. "That's exactly it. You've understood it perfectly." They stayed like that for a long while, letting the quiet of the night wrap around them. Outside, the city continued its holiday bustle. But inside, there was only them, the tree, and the soft glow of lights that made the small apartment feel like a little world of its own. That night, he realized something important. Giving someone their first Christmas was not about doing something grand or impressive. It was about paying attention to their feelings, about creating experiences that were gentle, real, and filled with care. Every smile she gave, every laugh, every moment of wonder was more precious than any expensive gift could ever be. She, in turn, realized that Christmas wasn't about knowing the traditions perfectly. It was about experiencing them with someone who cared, about feeling love and kindness in small, ordinary ways. She had discovered that joy could be quiet and simple, yet more powerful than anything she had ever imagined. By the end of the night, they were both quiet, full, but content. Surrounded by the soft glow of the tree and the little ornaments that carried so much meaning, she had experienced her first Christmas, not just as a series of events, but as a feeling of warmth, belonging, and love. And he understood that for her. This first Christmas was the start of something bigger, a life filled with small joys. shared experiences, and the knowledge that even in a world that sometimes felt lonely, there was room for connection, kindness, and care. They didn't need fireworks or grand celebrations. The laughter, the lights, the small gifts, and the quiet moments together had created a memory far more lasting than any flashy event could. And as she drifted off to sleep that night, holding the handmade scarf close, he knew that this Christmas her first would be remembered forever, not for its perfection, but for its heart. Christmas morning arrived quietly, with soft light spilling through the window and a gentle hush over the world outside. He woke first, listening to the faint sounds of the city waking up. Today was special not just for him, but for her. This would be the first Christmas she had ever truly experienced, and he felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He wanted everything to feel right, to make her feel safe, cared for, and happy. He moved quietly around the apartment, making small preparations. The tree they had decorated together the night before glowed softly in the corner, its lights flickering gently. He placed the small gifts he had prepared under it, each one simple, but chosen with care. One was for her to keep as a memory. Another was small and fun, and one was something personal, something that carried meaning beyond its size or cost. When she woke, she rubbed her eyes and peeked into the living room. The sight that greeted her made her pause. The soft glow of the tree, the little gifts neatly arranged below, the faint smell of cookies and peanut was like stepping into a dream she had never known. She froze for a moment, her hand going to her chest, as if trying to hold the feeling inside. "Good morning," he said softly, smiling at her. "Merry Christmas." Her eyes widened, and a small smile formed on her lips. "Merry Christmas," she repeated, almost tasting the words as if they were foreign yet wonderful. She stepped closer to the tree, her fingers brushing lightly over the ornaments. "It's so beautiful," she whispered. He watched her carefully, noticing how every detail seemed to captivate her: the flicker of the lights, the shape of the ornaments, even the slight tilt of the little tree itself. "It's ours," he said gently. "Not perfect, but ours. And today is about enjoying it together." She nodded, her eyes still wide with wonder. She picked up one of the small gifts, hesitating before unwrapping it. Inside was a tiny hand-painted wooden bird. Her fingers traced its smooth surface, and she looked up at him with tears forming in her eyes. "It's for me?" she asked softly. "Yes," he said. "It's to remember your first Christmas, so you can always feel the magic you felt today." She hugged the little gift close, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. The quiet was warm and comforting, the kind of silence that fills a space when two people are connected without words. She looked around the room, noticing everything he had done, and finally said, I've never had someone do this for me before. Never felt like this." He smiled, feeling a lump in his throat. "Then today's for you," he said, "and we'll make it special just by being together." They started the morning slowly, with small traditions he had grown up with. They poured hot chocolate into mugs, adding whipped cream and a sprinkle of cinnamon. She marveled at the way it smelled, her eyes lighting up as she took a sip. "It's amazing," she said. "I never knew a drink could taste like warmth." They moved to the little breakfast he had prepared. Simple but comforting: fresh bread, jam, and some fruit. She tasted each thing carefully, savoring the flavors, and smiled with delight at the simplest bites. He watched her closely, realizing that for her, these ordinary acts, drinking hot chocolate, eating breakfast, looking at lights, were extraordinary. After breakfast, they exchanged the small gifts they had prepared for each other. She handed him a tiny ornament she had made herself, clumsy but heartfelt. "I made this for you," she said, her cheeks turning red. He took it carefully, holding it in his hands as if it were priceless. "It's perfect," he said. "Thank you. I'll always remember this." Her smile grew, small and shy, but full of genuine happiness. He realized then that Christmas wasn't about what you give or receive, it was about the thought, the care, and the connection behind the gesture. Every smile, every small act of kindness, carried more meaning than anything money could buy. Later in the day, they decided to take a short walk outside, even though the streets were cold and quiet. The world looked different under a thin layer of frost, the trees glistening like crystal in the soft winter light. People walked with bags of gifts, children played in the snow, and the air was filled with the quiet hum of holiday cheer. She watched everything with wide eyes, pointing at things he had never noticed before, asking questions about the lights, the people, and the music. "Why does everyone smile like this?" she asked, her voice full of curiosity. "Because it's Christmas," he said softly. "People feel joy, and they share it. It's not perfect, but it's real, and it's contagious." She nodded slowly, absorbing every word, every detail, as if trying to memorize this world. "I want to remember all of this," she said quietly. "I want to keep it in my heart." They returned home and spent the afternoon doing small, ordinary things that suddenly felt magical. They baked more cookies, decorated a few extra ornaments, and played music from old Christmas records. She laughed when she didn't get the notes right, and he laughed with her, feeling the room fill with warmth and life. Every sound, every movement, felt new and precious because it was experienced together. As the evening approached, suggested they light a few candles and sit by the tree. The soft flicker of light reflected in her eyes, and she leaned slightly against him, a gesture of trust and comfort he had earned over weeks of patience and gentle care. He realized that this first Christmas was not just about decorations or gifts. It was about giving her a sense of belonging, showing her that she mattered, making her feel safe in a world she had often found confusing. They shared stories of past holidays, not as a lecture, but as conversation. He told her about family traditions, about snowball fights and carols sung around a fireplace. She listened, her face lighting up with understanding and imagination, picturing the scenes in her mind as vividly as if she were there. She began to see that Christmas was not just a day, but a feeling, a combination of small joys, shared laughter, and quiet moments that made life meaningful. At one point, she turned to him, her eyes serious but soft. I never knew a day could feel like this," she said. "I thought holidays were just things people do. But it's more than that. It's love. It's care. I think I understand now." He smiled, feeling a wave of emotion he could barely describe. "That's exactly it," he said. "It's not the gifts or the decorations. It's the feeling you carry, the moments you share, and the people you share them with." The night grew late, but they stayed by the tree, enjoying the quiet. Outside, the world continued its festive rush, but inside, there was only peace. She leaned back, her head resting lightly on his shoulder, and he felt the weight of her trust, the unspoken gratitude that passed between them without a word. Before she went to bed, she took the little hand-painted bird he had given her the day before and placed it gently on a branch of the tree. "So I can remember this." "Forever?" she said softly. He nodded, touched beyond words. "Yes, so you'll always remember your first Christmas, and how it felt to be cared for and included." She drifted off to sleep that night. He watched her for a moment, marveling at how much this day had meant to her. It had been simple, quiet, and ordinary in many ways, but to her, it was extraordinary. She had felt warmth, love, and joy for the first time in a real, tangible way. And for him, watching her experience, it had given the holiday a meaning he had never known before. That Christmas day ended not with fireworks or grand celebrations, but with quiet smiles, gentle touches, and the soft glow of a small tree in a little apartment. It was real, it was heartfelt, and it was unforgettable. It had been her first Christmas, and it had been everything she needed to feel included, happy, and loved. And as he turned off the lights for the night, he knew one thing for certain. This was not just the beginning of her Christmas experience, but the beginning of a life filled with shared moments, care, and love, a story they would continue to write together, one small, meaningful moment at a time. The day after Christmas was quiet, almost peaceful in contrast to the excitement of yesterday. The streets were calmer, the decorations still twinkling, but the rush of shopping and crowds had faded. He woke early, just like the day before, and for a moment he watched her sleep. She looked peaceful, relaxed, and for the first time, truly at ease. Seeing her like this made his heart feel warm in a way he hadn't known before. He made a small breakfast, just toast and tea, knowing she didn't need anything fancy. The joy from the previous day still lingered in the air. He felt that both of them were carrying a new kind of happiness, quiet, gentle, and lasting. She woke soon after, smiling sleepily when she saw the little breakfast he had prepared. "Good morning," she said softly, her voice filled with calm contentment. "Good morning," he replied, smiling back. "How are you feeling today?" She stretched and yawned, then looked around the apartment. "Happy," she said simply. I didn't know it could feel like this. I never had this before?" He nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. "That's the magic of your first Christmas," he said gently. "It's not just the day, it's the feeling you take with you afterward. You'll carry it in your heart." They ate quietly, sharing small conversation and gentle laughter. She asked questions about how people in his life had celebrated past Christmases, and he told stories of simple Joyce family dinners, carols, small surprises, and acts of kindness. She listened, absorbing everything with care, clearly imagining herself experiencing it all, not just hearing about it. After breakfast, he suggested they take a walk. The streets were still decorated, and the soft winter sunlight reflected off the light frost on the ground. People moved slowly, lingering outside after the holiday, but the energy of joy and calm lingered in the air. She walked beside him, hands in pockets, occasionally pointing at things she hadn't noticed before, a small snow-covered bush, a window with leftover decorations, a child's scarf blowing in the wind. "Do people always feel this way on Christmas?" she asked softly, looking up at him. "Not always," he said. "Sometimes it's busy or stressful. But if you pay attention to the feelings, the kindness, and the moments people share, you can see the true spirit of Christmas. It's there for anyone who wants to notice it." She nodded, thinking carefully about his words. "I want to notice it. Always," she said quietly. "I don't want to forget this feeling." He smiled, feeling a deep warmth. "Then you won't," he said. "It will stay with you, and every year you can remember how it felt to experience it for the first time." When they returned home, he suggested they make something together, a small tradition of their own. They decided to bake another batch of cookies, even though the kitchen had already been used the day before. She giggled as they mixed ingredients, spilling flour and sugar accidentally, laughing at their little mistakes. It was a simple act, but it felt special because they were doing it together, learning and enjoying each other's company. While the cookies baked, they sat by the tree and shared small gifts they hadn't given the day before. She handed him a card she had made herself, decorated with simple drawings and words of thanks. "I wanted to give you something," she said, her cheeks turning red. He took it carefully, reading the words and looking at the drawings. Inside, she had written about how much this first Christmas meant to her, how it had made her feel seen, cared for, and happy. He felt his heart swell. "Thank you," he said softly. "This is perfect. I'll keep it forever." She smiled, a little shyly, then leaned back against the couch, taking a deep breath. "I never knew a day could be like this," she said. "I thought holidays were just things people did. But it's not. It's feelings. And it's love." He nodded, realizing that she had truly understood. This wasn't just about Christmas Eve. It was about learning to feel warmth, to feel cared for, and to understand connection. And in teaching her, he had learned something too, that sharing joy, even in small ways, was one of the most meaningful acts a person could do. The afternoon passed slowly, filled with quiet conversation, laughter, and small shared moments. They listened to soft Christmas music, and she tried to sing along, her voice uncertain but joyful. He encouraged her gently, clapping along to her rhythm. She laughed at herself, and he laughed with her, enjoying the simple happiness that filled the room. Later, they took a walk outside to enjoy the quiet of post-Christmas streets. The decorations were still bright, the lights reflected off the frost, and the world seemed peaceful. She looked around carefully, noticing details she had missed the day before, a pattern in the snow, the way lights reflected in windows, the small gestures of families greeting each other, I think. I understand now, she said softly, taking his hand. Christmas is not just a day. It's care. It's kindness. It's noticing the people around you and making them feel happy. He squeezed her hand gently, feeling a rush of warmth. Exactly, he said. And now you know what it feels like. You've experienced it firsthand. When they returned home, they sat quietly by the tree once more, reflecting on the day. She placed the small ornaments she had made carefully on the branches, arranging them with care. Each one carried meanings, small reminders of the day, their shared experiences, and the joy she had felt for the first time. He watched her, noticing how she looked more relaxed, more open, more herself than he had ever seen. This first Christmas had given her more than decorations or gifts. It had given her feelings she had never known. The simple yet profound happiness of being included, seen, and cared for. They shared a simple dinner together. Just the two of them, talking quietly and laughing softly. She asked questions about family traditions, food, and past experiences, and he answered patiently, sharing what he could without overwhelming her. She listened intently, clearly learning not just about Christmas, but about connection, trust, and shared experiences. After dinner, they sat by the window, watching the city lights. She leaned against him gently, a gesture of comfort and trust that he cherished. I never knew life could feel like this, she said softly. I never knew a day could make me feel like I belong somewhere. He hugged her lightly, feeling her warmth. You do belong, he said quietly. And you'll always belong. Christmas is just a reminder of that. But the feeling, that stays with you all year round. As the night grew darker, they lit a few candles and sat quietly, the flickering light reflecting in their eyes. She held the hand-painted bird ornament he had given her, looking at it carefully. So I can remember my first Christmas, she said softly, and how it felt to be cared for and happy. He smiled, touched beyond words. Yes, and every year you can remember this feeling, maybe share it with someone else, just like you experienced it today. She nodded, her eyes glistening. I want to, she said. I want to share this feeling with someone else someday. The room grew quiet, filled only with the soft glow of the tree and the candles. Outside, the city was still alive with the quiet hum of post-holiday cheer, but inside, there was peace. They had experienced something simple, ordinary in appearance, yet extraordinary in feeling. It was her first Christmas, and it had given her joy, trust, connection, and love, things she had never known before. He realized then that this Christmas was not just about giving her experiences, it was about creating a memory that would last a lifetime. Every smile, every laugh, every small act of care had built something lasting. The understanding that kindness, love, and shared moments were the true meaning of the holiday. By the time she went to bed that night, she felt full, not just with food or gifts, but with feelings she had never known. Happiness, warmth, trust, and love filled her heart. She looked at him with gratitude and a small, shy smile. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. My first Christmas was perfect because of you, he smiled, feeling a quiet joy in his heart. No, thank you, he said softly, for trusting me, for letting me share it with you, and for letting me see your first Christmas through your eyes. It's unforgettable. She drifted off to sleep, holding the small ornaments close and resting under a blanket of warmth. He watched her for a moment, feeling the depth of connection that had grown between them. This first Christmas had changed both of them. Emmett had taught her what it felt like to belong, and it had taught him that giving someone joy was one of the most meaningful things in life. And as the night fell, the lights of the tree twinkled gently, the small ornaments reflected the soft glow, and the apartment felt filled with a sense of peace and happiness. This first Christmas had been simple, quiet, and ordinary in appearance, but it had been extraordinary in feeling. It had been hers, his and theirs, a memory they would both carry forever. A story of care, love, and connection that marked the beginning of many Christmases to come.